Hello everyone, what is up? It is me, MTG. Today is Friday, which means pre-release happens tomorrow. For me, it's happening right now. It is about 3 o'clock, so it'll be happening for me in about 9 hours. And I can't wait for it, of course. And so again, I'm here doing another pre-release pool sealed simulator video here on DraftSim.com. We're going to go ahead and just open up a sample pool, see what we would play from the given cards here in this pool, and it's just a nice little way to practice for tonight, since I'll be doing 3 different pre-release sealed pools tonight. Having some additional practice could be beneficial to me. So what I'm seeing here in white is that we have some decent little removal spells. Luminous Bonds and Hieromancer's Cage are both quite good. Pegasus Courser's fine as well. And if we end up with some life gain shenanigans, then Double Johnny's Pridemate seems quite strong as well. Mirror Image, Omen Speaker, nothing too crazy here in blue. I, for some reason, can't seem to not open up this card. I feel like the last few sealed pools that I've tried to practice for, I've opened up this stupid rare. Which it's not a good rare, by the way. At the beginning of your upkeep, target opponent puts the top 3 cards of their library into their graveyard, then you draw a card for each land card put into the graveyard this way. Really, unless you're being a mill deck, this card is just a 5-mana do-nothing, essentially. I'm not really big on it. Quad Skeleton Archer, though, that's kind of interesting. Gravedigger's a nice little card here in black as well. Like, our 4-drops in black seem quite strong, in all honesty. Having some Skeleton Archers here, a Gravedigger, and a Fell Spectre all seem quite good. Basically what I'm seeing here is that we've also opened up 2 fantastic black cards here. Vampire Sovereign is ridiculous. This is essentially what I'm considering to be the Siege Rhino of this limited set. 5-mana flyer, 3/4. When it enters the battlefield, target opponent loses 3 life and you gain 3 life, so it costs 1 more mana than Siege Rhino, but has the same ETB effect. And then also just has some evasion here. I believe Siege Rhino was 1 less mana with Trample, but Vampire Sovereign only makes you play 1 color compared to the 3 that Siege Rhino made you play, so Vampire Sovereign is just a ridiculous card. Demon of Catastrophes is also just a fantastic card as well. Not really much here in red. This is not a card that I want to play at all. So exile the top 7 cards of your library until end of turn. You may cast non-land cards exiled this way. If the spell was cast from your hand, add 10 mana of any one color. This is not something I'm interested in at all. We have like some other reasonable cards here, like the Lightning Mares aren't too bad. Bogart Brute's a nice filler card. Instigator's a nice filler card, and same goes for the Spark-Tongue Dragons as well. But I'm not super big on those. In terms of a rare here, we have Thorn Lieutenant, a 2-mana 2/3. Whenever it becomes the target of a spell or ability an opponent controls, create a 1/1 green elf warrior creature token, and then you can pay 6 mana to give it +4/+4 until end of turn. And then there's just some other reasonable green cards here. Scapeshift, Vivian's Invocation, again, similar to the Apex of Power, just too expensive for what it does. Just not something I'm interested in playing. Scapeshift is like, meh, not super like enticed to play it. Some people just assume that it's garbage and limited, which if I was a newer player, I would also have just assumed that it was garbage and limited. But what Scapeshift does is it allows you to remove lands from your deck. It allows you to find your splash colors as well. If you only run, like, for example, 1 mountain in your deck, then the Scapeshift can allow you to find that 1 mountain. But it's the biggest draw to Scapeshift is the fact that it removes lands from your deck, which means that you're more likely to draw into good cards later in the game and not just top deck lands. That's the big draw to Scapeshift. Aside from that, it doesn't really do a ton, but it does help out at least a little bit. So Scapeshift, not something I'm like super like drawn to play like you would be with most mythics, but it is like a reasonable card if you're in green. It's not something that you want to like first pick in draft or anything like that and build a deck around. Here we have some decent little artifacts here. Arcane Encyclopedia is fairly strong. Skyrider Patrol is fantastic. Rogue's Gloves is not the worst in the world. Fountain of Renewal if we end up in the black-white gain a life deck, or black-white life gain deck, I should say. And actually, I think with the cards that we've opened, that's kind of the deck that's pointing out to me the most. We'll build a nice little synergistic deck here, revolving around some black-green or some black-white life gain cards we had. So Double Johnny's Pridemate definitely get in this deck. The Chaplain certainly gets in this deck. Courser is also fine. I'm not going to put Revitalize in yet because Revitalize, if you're not in the life gain deck, Revitalize is a card that you should 100% not play, but it might end up making our deck just solely because it fits the theme. Luminous Bond's fantastic removal, that would get in the deck. Pyromancer's Cage is the same way. And then when we come down here to the black cards that care about life gain, these Neonates, again, don't look great, but they honestly aren't the worst, and they play out much better than would be expected. Doom Dissenter here can get in the deck as well. Hired Blade is fine. Bloodletter allows us to gain a life again, so both of those can get in. We're probably not playing all 4 of these Skeleton Archers, but it is kind of interesting that we do have all of them. Gravedigger can go ahead and get in. Spectre can go ahead and get in. Catastrophes, Vampire Sovereign, these Epicure of Bloods go very nicely in this deck revolving around life gain, so those can get in as well. Mind Rot in Sealed is fine. When you're drafting, you really don't want to be playing Mind Rot, but in Sealed, most people just tend to look at their most powerful cards and then build a deck based around their most powerful cards, and most of the time those will be 5 and 6 drops, so it is very likely that sometimes you can get Mind Rot to where they need to discard their bombs, so Mind Rot is a very playable card in Sealed. And so since this is pre-release practice, pre-release would of course be a sealed event, so I don't mind running one of those in the deck. Coming back down here, some of these cards that we're looking to play. Fountain of Renewal is a card that I was super down on when I first saw it, but people have convinced me into it. I just got done listening to the Limited Resources podcast. They put out a 4-hour, it was like 4.5-hour video today, going over all the commons and uncommons in the set, and they talked me into a few cards and talked me out of a few cards that I was initially high on or initially low on. And Fountain of Renewal was a card that they kind of talked me into, especially for this black-white life gain deck. I think the life gain deck has a lot of potential, and so that's a card that can go ahead and get in there. It can help us grow our Ajani's Pridemates here, and then we just have some additional nice life gain synergies in here. And then even if we don't get the life gain synergies like the Epicure of Blood, then we just have like reasonable creatures as well. Like a 2/2 for 2 here with Johnny's Pridemate isn't the worst. The Vampire Neonates are honestly pretty bad if we don't have the synergies going on, but with the Johnny's Pridemate and Epicure of Blood, we have 4 essential payoffs for this effect. So I think we're in like a reasonable position here. So it looks like we have quite a decent mana curve. It's nothing too crazy. We do have 3 more playables to add to our deck. Of course, we'll be playing the Forsaken Sanctuary. Unfortunately, we can't splash the Skyrider Patrol. I wish we could. Arcane Encyclopedia seems like a fine card that we can go ahead and add to the deck. It's just a nice way later on so we can continue to draw cards and cycle through our deck. That way we can find more of our life gain synergies and those kind of things. Gargoyle Sentinel is not the worst either if we're planning on trying to stick it out to the late game. I forgot to add in any Skeleton Archers, so 2 of those probably get in. And Abnormal Endurance probably isn't the worst. Like, it's not a great combat trick, but it's also just not the worst. Ravenous Harpy is also not the worst either. But I think the other 3 drops we have are just better than the Harpy, especially in our deck. We don't really have a ton of cards that we're looking to sacrifice outside of Doom Dissenter. Everything else really, yeah, we're better off just not sacrificing them, it looks like. When we come back up here to white, we could just end up playing the Revitalize. It does cycle, so in our deck it's not the worst. Yeah, I think I'm going to go ahead and add it in. Again, like I said previously when I talked about this card, please do not play that card unless you are in the black-white life gain deck. The card is quite bad, but for us, it's going to grow our Johnny's Pridemates. It's going to dome our opponent if we have Epicure of Bloods. So I think this seems like a reasonable deck. We have 1 additional cut to make. It feels really bad needing to play Revitalize, in all honesty. That is not a card that I ever thought that I would be sleeving up, but after looking at these black-white life gain cards, there's just some really decent black-white life gain cards. I guess I'm going to cut 1 of these Skeleton Archers, and that looks like 23 playable cards to me. I shouldn't even say playable cards. Revitalize is not in any means playable except for in this deck alone. Again, I feel like I keep saying it, but I just really want to reiterate the fact that just because I'm playing this card in this specific deck, don't be like, hey, I saw this YouTuber do it, so, you know, I should do it too. This is only if you're in the black-white life gain deck, and only if you have the payoffs for it, again, like Epicure of Blood, or like a Johnny's Pride Mate. But yeah, this seems like a deck here. Demon of Catastrophes is a fantastic rare that we have as well, and then we just have some decent little removal spells here in Hieromancer's Cage and Luminous Bonds. We've got some recursion here with Gravedigger, which isn't the worst. Skeleton Archer is a fine card. Vampire Sovereign is a fantastic card that I am extremely happy to play. The Vampire Neonates, again, not cards I'm super high on, but for this specific strategy, they're fine. They're a nice little mana sink later in the game for us as well. In terms of mana sinks, we have the 2 Vampire Neonates, and we have the Arcane Encyclopedia as our mana sinks, so not too many mana sinks, but at the same time not a super few amount of mana sinks either. And so what I'm seeing from this deck, it almost looks like 10-7 in favor of black. That's kind of what I'm leaning towards. The only thing I don't like about going 10-7 here is that our white cards are mainly 2-drops, and so we'd rather be playing them earlier on. We only ever need 1 white source though. We don't have any double white spells. Yeah, so I think I'm gonna end up with 10-7 in favor of swamps. So that would be 33, and then 7 white sources. And this would be the build that I would play for this pre-release pool. The black-white life gain deck I think has. In the past, I have not been big on the black-white life gain decks. We saw it in like Ixalan and Rivals of Ixalan. There was some black-white life gain shenanigans there. I just was not big on that deck whatsoever. But in this deck, or in this set, I should say, the payoffs are just a million times better with a Johnny's Pride Mate, and then even just a 5-mana 4/4 with additional value is just fine. So I think, yeah, this looks like a pretty reasonable deck. I don't know if, like, some of the things it's missing in terms of like what you want to look for in a good sealed deck, we are kind of lacking in removal. We have the Luminous Bonds and the Hieromancer's Cage, but aside from that, we didn't open up any of the other good black removal spells. If we scroll back up here to the top, there's like a 5-mana 1 that destroys target creature and you gain 3 life. Liliana's something, I forget the name of it currently, but that's a card that exists. Or even just like the 4-mana instant speed 1 that gives a creature -3/-3. We're missing out on all of those removals. We didn't open up any murders either. That would have been a fantastic card to open up. But aside from this, Invoke the Divine is a nice little sideboard card for us to have. If we see our opponents playing any artifacts or enchantments, then Invoke the Divine would be a fantastic card for us. Again, gaining us life and also just kind of acting as somewhat of a removal spell, I guess. Removing an artifact or an enchantment, especially if they're in the blue-white artifacts deck or the green-white enchantments deck. Then it would be a fantastic card against those specific matchups. But I think this deck seems very synergistic, and I like it. I think this deck turned out well. Hopefully you guys did enjoy. If you guys learned anything, go ahead and let me know down below in the comments. If you guys found the video to be helpful. I forgot about the Forsaken Sanctuary. There we go. So without the Forsaken Sanctuary, I'm probably removing 1 swamp. So we are then playing 9 swamps, 7 plains, and 1 Forsaken Sanctuary as our 17 lands. I almost missed the Forsaken Sanctuary there, but I got it in the end. So hopefully you guys did enjoy the video. Let me know, again, as I'm scrolling through this sealed pool here. There we go. That's how English works. You guys can go ahead and let me know if there was a different color combination that you think I should have been in. What are your opinions on the black-white life gain deck? Do you think it's better in this format than it is in other formats like I do? Just anything you guys want to tell me. Was Skyrider Patrol a strong enough card that I should have given green-blue a try? I think that's very possible as well. I went for a more synergistic build here instead of a more raw power level kind of build. But at the same time, the Archfiend, or not Archfiend, the Demon of Catastrophes, again, just a fantastic card. And so I think that the sealed pool would have done quite nicely. go ahead and let me know down below in the comment section your opinions. Hope you guys have a fantastic time at your pre-release this weekend. And then of course, let me know later on how you guys did. I'll be sure to do a pre-release recap later on next week. And with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching the video, and I will see you guys here tomorrow for yet another Magic the Gathering video.